Alrighty, greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott, and you are in the Prog Corner, some iteration of the Prog Corner that is. I can't, uh, I can't make excuses anymore. I just need to hit record and start doing some stuff. So here we are. 21 days until I get my phone back. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the great Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart and their one and only album they did together, Bongo Fury. And this comes as a direct result of the great Charles Bannister asking yours truly to do a review of this album, since it's his wife's favorite album, which is kind of bizarre. I can't imagine any woman choosing this as their favorite album, but hey, why not? It's a great one. We're going to get into it here in a little bit, but first I'm feeling a little bit parched. All that time spent on the phone with Apple. But, I'm going to take my anger and my frustration and my energies and try to channel them into something a little bit more productive here today. Yeah, what are we talking about here today? We're talking about Bongo Fury. Look at that. Those two guys, they've known each other forever. Zappa was born in 1940. In Baltimore, but at some point he moved to LA. I guess his dad was involved in the in military industrial complex, and Frank Zappa was known as a child to be playing with liquid mercury, and it caused all kinds of childhood sickness and illness for him, and probably the reason he left us so early in 1993. Don Van Fleet, on the other hand, he was a California boy through and through, born January 15th, 1941 in Glendale. He left us in 2010. But apparently towards the end of Zappa's life, these two guys kind of reconnected, even though they were childhood friends, meeting at Lancaster, California's Antelope High School, deep in the Mojave Desert there. They did some band stuff together, but really, if you think about it, there's precious little in terms of actual collaboration between these two guys. You had Willie the Pimp on Hot Rats, and you had San Bernardino on One Size Fits All. But Bongo Fury is the testament to these two guys, their genius coming together. And this wasn't the first time that Frank Zappa had come to the rescue of his friend, Captain Beefheart, whom I guess he named, gave him that moniker. But, you can go all the way back to Captain Beefheart's early recording history. He signed a deal with A&M, and they did a couple singles, Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, and he promptly got kicked off of A&M for not producing any hits. His first album, Safe as Milk, really didn't move the needle much for anybody at all. Buddha Records at that time was really getting into the bubblegum, so they didn't know what to do with a guy like him. So then the second Captain Beefheart album came out on a small imprint called Blue Thumb, so he didn't get any kind of traction there. So after 3 failed record contracts and 2 miserably selling albums, Frank Zappa came to Captain Beefheart's rescue and released and produced the great Trout Mask replica, and the legend of Captain Beefheart was definitely born. Zappa, on the other hand, didn't need any rescuing. His career was just going just fine when they decided to do this little tour together in the spring of 1975. Zappa was flying high, but this is the very last album with the Mothers of Invention moniker on it. And for a lot of the guys in the Mothers of Invention, this would be their last go-round with Frank Zappa. I'm thinking about George Duke. This was his last album on there. I think this might have been Chester Thompson's last record. With Zappa, the Fowler Brothers. So what was the lineup on here, actually? You got so many great musicians playing on this record. It's a weird record, man. We're going to get into a little bit of details about it, but it's just a bizarre thing. But when you've got Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, George Duke, the Fowler Brothers, Terry Bozzio makes his inaugural appearance on a Zappa record here, along with Chester Thompson playing on the 2.5 studio tracks, and Napoleon Murphy Brock sax, Denny Wally's on slide guitar. So for a lot of these guys, this was the last go around with Zappa. For some of them, it was the first go around with Zappa for Terry Bozzio and Denny Wally. I think this was their actual first record with Zappa. So is this a Zappa record or is this a Captain Beefheart record? Well, if you look at the credits, it's clear this is all Zappa stuff except for the 2 little spoken word pieces that are on kind of either side of the album. So it's really interesting to hear Captain Beefheart singing these words that were written by Zappa, yet at the same time, it really does sound like Captain Beefheart influencing Zappa. And then it goes the other way around too, where Zappa's influencing what Beefheart's doing on this record. Beefheart's influencing Zappa, and it's just it's a gritty record. This is probably the bluesiest record Zappa ever put out, and clearly the connection to Captain Beefheart is why that would be, as Zappa famously was enthralled by the music of the great French composer Edgar Varese. Captain Beefheart was going down a different path, and he was really influenced by Howlin' Wolf and tried to, emulate him with the gravelly voice and all that stuff. But the Mojave Desert, the desert imagery has always been a big part of Captain Beefheart, his music, his art. What a talent. What an amazing, amazing, talented guy. We talked about the first couple Beefheart records and how they didn't sell. And then Trout Mask Replica was a big critical seismic change, but it didn't get great reviews. A lot of people didn't understand. Hey, that record's been out over 50 years and I still don't understand it. So I get that. And along the way, as the 70s went on, Beefheart started to do more commercial stuff. He put out 2 records in 74 that were not great and were very much informed by him trying to get a hit record on his hands. Unconditionally Guaranteed and Blue Jeans and Moonbeams, just not good records. So he kind of needed to set the record straight. He kind of needed to get his career back. Apparently, his Magic Band was in a complete disarray. There was no Magic Band, so he would have to kind of recruit some new players for his follow-up. And this is a record that came out shortly after Bongo Fury, but it really didn't. We're talking about Bat Chain Puller. That record, it was one of the things that caused more friction again between Captain Beefheart and Zappa, as there was some problems with the funding of it, and some of the money was being funneled from Zappa's successful records into that record. So I guess it never really, even Shiny Beast never saw the light of day until 92, right before Zappa died. It's a great record. I love Captain Beefheart so much, and I love Frank Zappa. So this was a pleasure to, go back and listen to this record. It's kind of a forgotten about record in everyone's discography, not just Captain Beefheart, but in Zappa's discography. Because if you think about it, all the stuff that preceded Bongo Fury, Overnight Sensation, One Size Fits All, Apostrophe, Hot Rats, all that amazing music. And then Bongo Fury comes out, and it was definitely the end of an era. Like I said, it was the last Mothers of Invention record. Zappa would kind of go a different direction with Zoot Allures and Joe's Garage and Shut Up and Play Your Guitar and all that kind of stuff, Chic Your Booty. He still had a lot of greatness in him, as did Captain Beefheart. And I will say, I actually think Captain Beefheart's last record, 1982's Ice Cream for Crow, might be my favorite from him. But we're talking about Bongo Fury, man. What a cool record this is. It starts out with Deborah Cadabra. It's a real gritty, bluesy kind of guitar sound. Then you got, Doug Van Fleet singing all these Zappa lyrics, but they really do sound a whole lot like they came from the pen of Captain Beefheart, and that's how much these two guys were influencing each other. So apparently these live tracks were part of this short tour that they put together in the spring of 75. The tracks that found their way onto this album were recorded at the Armadillo National Headquarters. I don't even know what that is, in Austin, Texas. The song's talking about commercialism and television and just the American decline. This is all material Zappa's covered many, many times, but it's kind of cool hearing Captain Beefheart singing about it. What a great way to start a song. It's cacophonic, and it's ugly, and it's dirty, and it's gritty, and it's really, really great. Next up is Carolina Hardcore Ecstasy. This is the best song on the album. There's not even a question. It's actually one of my favorite Zappa songs ever. It's just terrific. I love the wordplay, and I love the imagery. I love it when he's talking about she put a Doobie Brothers tape on, and I had a Roger Daltrey cape on. You know, that kind of irreverent type of referencing is always fun, and that's kind of the stuff we look for from Frank Zappa, absolutely. Next up is a short little poetic recitation from the Captain, Sam, with the showing scalp flat top. It's cool. It's got some weird musical stuff going on in the background. You can definitely tell it's live. Then comes kind of a twofer of Americana. First up is Poofter's Froth, Wyoming Plans Ahead. And it's kind of a weird country song. It's all right. I like it. It fits. It's fun. And then they go to the studio tracks, the first of which is 200 Years. And once again, we're talking about the upcoming bicentennial of America, the very next year, 1976. And Zappa's just warning you about all the commercialism that's about to come and all the stuff they're going to try to sell you that you don't need to buy. Boy, he was ahead of his time on that kind of a thought process. The second studio track is Cucamonga. I guess the studio tracks were recorded during the same studio time that brought us One Size Fits All and some of the Studio Tan stuff. So you've got a Chester Thompson on drums here, and it's a great track. You can kind of feel the desert heat and the sand blowing in your face. It's pretty cool. Next up is Advanced Romance, and this is where George Duke really gets his day. They're letting him sing a little lead vocal, but his keyboard stuff in the background is really, really great. This is a long track, takes its time to get going. It's very bluesy, but it's very awesome. I really enjoy it a lot. Man with the Woman Head is the second of the Captain Beefheart poems that he recites. This one's shorter, and it's got a little bit more musical backbone to it, but it's a lot of fun. And that leads us right into the final track, which I guess the beginning was recorded in the studio, and the second half of the song is in the live setting. It's actually done very well. You can't really hear where it goes from live to studio or vice versa. But nobody cares about that. All anybody really cares about here is that muffins are so much better than cupcakes. And Frank Zappa's guitar solo is just disgusting on this record. He's not playing that technical style like we're used to. His playing all over this album, it tends to be kind of sloppy and whatnot, fitting in perfectly with the dirty blues that the Captain brings on board. It's just a whole lot of fun. And when Muffin Man ends, all I want to do is hit start again and get right back to Deborah Cadabra. It's that kind of record that really does just beg for repeat views and listens. I just love it. I think it's amazing. What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I've always been a big fan of Captain Beefheart. And he worked for the same company I did at one point in his life. He worked for the great Kenny Shoes, which was the company that brought us Foot Locker, for whom I worked for 15 arduous years. Frank Zappa, everybody knows his story. Yes, I am working on a Frank Zappa episode, but this is actually the very first time that I get to really talk about Frank Zappa on the channel. So thank you, Charles Bannister, for bringing this record to my attention. Yeah, I knew all about it, but to be honest, I have not listened to Bongo Fury in probably 20 years. So it was really fun going back and checking it out again. And as a result, I've been listening to nothing but Zappa and Beefheart here for the past couple days. And it's really getting me psyched up for my Zappa episode. Yeah, I'm not going to rank all 628 Zappa albums, but what I am going to do is come up with a top 20 Frank Zappa albums. And it's going to be great. I can't wait to do that. But in the meantime, I am Scott. You are in the Prog Corner. I love you guys so much. Thanks for sticking around. I know it's been a rough month. I know I've been in an awful mood, and I haven't been a whole lot of fun to be hanging out with these days. but I promise I'm going to change. I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better. And it's all for you guys. And it's all for the love of prog rock. Anyway, you guys have a great day. And I will see you soon. Yes.